Couple of things going here today. Yeah. Well, one is the sorry about that. One is the other day I was working on the van. We tried, when I say we, because I have a short in the van. And I didn't realize, well, I kind of realized, but I never put a meter on it to find out what the short was actually drawing. But the other day I put the meter on it, and I've got like a 2.5 amp short. So a couple of weeks ago I realized I had a short because I was disconnecting my alarm for a minute. And in doing so I disconnected the negative side of the battery, and when I was going to put the battery negative side back on, I was getting a spark, and I was also getting a click 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 sound, more of a clunk than a click, but you know what I'm saying. So I wasn't sure what the hell it was, but I was getting a pretty good spark. I'm saying this is not right. So I took the truck across the street, the van across the street to Chris, which is I call him a backyard mechanic. However, he's a good mechanic. Any garage or dealership would kill to have this guy. He's good. That's all there is to it. He just works out of his backyard. He saves himself a lot of overhead. His grandfather was a mechanic for diesel and gas engines. His father was a diesel and gas engine mechanic. So the background of him, and he's in his 50s, so he's been doing it a long time. So he has a lot of knowledge when it comes to both new and old stuff. The new stuff he's still learning on, but he has the ability. However, while I'm clicking this thing underneath the hood, he's under the dash feeling the relays to see if he's feeling any of them clicking or moving. And at the same time, he's pulling them out one at a time. And I'm still clicking, and we're still sparking. He pulled every fuse out of the dash one at a time. We pulled every relay and fuse out from under the hood one at a time. And during all this time, it's still going clunk, 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 with a spark every time I touched it. So I'm losing a battery, you know, well, it goes dead. If I don't use the vehicle for 12, 14 hours, the battery's pretty well not going to start the car. Now, luckily, I have a second battery up underneath the back side where the spare tire is. There's a big Group 31 deep cycle back there with a number 4 gauge coming forth, and then I have a switchable breaker that I use that I can kick on and off whenever I need it. The reason for that battery is another story, but luckily I flipped the breaker and I can use the rear battery to jump the front battery. That was kind of the intention, but not for the reason, you know. But anyway, so the other day I had to pull the doghouse back a few inches because I had to realign something with the carpet. And when I did it, I said, you know what, as long as I have it disconnected, let me pull it right out of there, because it's a chore taking this doghouse apart. You have to take the inner cover off, which is the plastic with the cup holders and the glove blocks and all that kind of crap. You have to take all that off. Then you got a heat duct that covers over the back of the doghouse that brings the heat to the rear. You know, so you got to take all that out. Then you have to disconnect the doghouse, and then you got to move that back. Now, the next step is just trying to finagle it out between the seats and the door, because it's a pain in the ass, all right? But once that's done, so you know what, let me pull it out. I've got everything off, I got it disconnected. All I got to do is finagle it between the seats and get it out of here. And this, maybe the clunk is coming from underneath the doghouse someplace in the engine compartment, and it just sounds like it's coming from under the steering column area. Dashboard, because they're so close on the Astro van. So I pulled that off, and we still clunk, 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 clunk. Now, I got the wife looking under there, clunk, clunk. She says, no, she's coming from under here someplace, but you know, she couldn't get down up under there, as, you know, as I mean, you know, we're both kind of catching up there. We do the best we can. So I said, let me call Chris over. So Chris comes over, and I actually pulled the bottom part of the dashboard off. So now you can just sit there and look in. You're seeing all the breakers, you're seeing the computer, you're seeing the fuse box, you're seeing everything. I even disconnected or unscrewed. I didn't disconnect it completely, but I unscrewed the fuse box from the firewall just in case there was a relay hanging up back there someplace. There was another panel there that had the relays and things on it. I disconnected that from the firewall. I moved the computer out from the firewall. I didn't know if there was anything hiding behind it. Everything was hanging by its wires on the floor of the van. And you can see a bare firewall. And this clicking is still coming from that bare firewall. We can't figure it out. We've pulled every breaker and fuse out of the van. Like I say, from under the hood and under the dash. Alright, so now what? Well, maybe it's behind the battery. Maybe it's on the outside of the firewall, behind the battery that we're not seeing. Who knows? So I pull the battery out. Now, there's no way I can really check it unless I put jumpers on the battery. But at that point, there was no relays there, so I put the battery back in. Well, I've got a 2.5 amp draw. I put the meter on it. It's 2.5 amps. It sounds like it's coming from under the dash on the driver's side, you know, up around the fuse panel area, but there's nothing there. It doesn't sound like just a click click. It's more of a clunking click, if you know what I mean. It's more of a solid. It would almost appear to be like a starter relay clunk click, clunk click, you know. But I don't know. You know, I just, if it was the starter relay sticking, it wouldn't start. Now I'm thinking, okay, at first, maybe that draw is supposed to be there, but 2.5 amp draws is not normal. So I said, well, maybe the alternator's screwing up, or the alternator, somebody said there might be an alternator relay. And that may be screwing up, so you're not charging either. So I started the van, and I put the meter on it, and it's showing a charge. It's not showing a great charge for where I considered it should have been, but it was showing a charge. And while it was running, I disconnected the negative and the positive side from the battery. So right now, it's running off the alternator power only. There's no battery connected to it. Now, if you ever do this, you want to make sure you have these things, you're holding them, and they don't touch anything, nor do they touch one another, other than where they belong on the battery. Right? Got them both off the battery. The truck is still running. But that indicates that the alternator is running. The alternator is working, so everything's fine. Can't figure out that clunk. So if anybody has any ideas on an 03 Astro van as to any hidden relays, because we only seen 3 of them up underneath there, you know, actually in the off to the side of the actual fuse box, which had a couple small ones. There's another one on a kick plate on the passenger side, but the noise isn't coming from there, you know, so it's not over there. So if anybody has any ideas, if anybody's educated on an 03 Astro van with the 6-cylinder in there with dead shorts, let me know. Like I said, I pulled every fuse and relay, and it's still there. So it has to be either before the fuse box or the relays, all right, but what's making that clunking clinking sound, or it's not going through any of that to start with. Now, I'm not aware, I don't know new stuff as much as the older stuff, but I'm not aware of any system that would be going through there in 12 volt without being hooked up through a fuse or relay somehow. So if anybody's got any ideas, let me know.